within that frame of type, now we're going to take a look at something we're all called comparative analysis. And this deals with how you are here to compare your design and what you might find in a partnership, large group, or small group. And so this will set us up nicely for next week when we talk about small group and large group in general, and the following week when we talk about small group more in depth. So whether you find yourself in a solo endeavor, partnership, small group, or large group, it is about finding your truth in whichever setting you find yourself in. Some of us are really built for large groups or small groups, and some of us not at all. So it becomes a part of your experience when you experiment with your strategy and operate from your own authority. Because what happens is when you are actually rubber meets the road, experiencing the challenges of what it is to be you, you might find that there are some situations where things are okay and some where it's absolutely not okay for you to be in that particular place and space that day. So when we look at the solo, however it is that you are designed, it's generally speaking going to be all up to you. And so it is very helpful if you have that kind of drive inside. Solo meaning independent. If you hear me say keynotes, you need to be independent, that's you. Solo meaning you can actually integrate and do your own thing and go your own way. So the archetypal nature of that happens to be like the manifestor or the reflector. That can too be a great place for you. Triple splits can do solo. Remember, for the projector and most times generator, it's not going to be as either satisfying or successful. Those two work really well together. So how do you operate correctly as yourself on the material plane? Use your unique gifts and talents through your strategy, honoring your authority, so that you can hone whatever skills you have within the context of your birth chart and develop those things that you're here to learn, the wisdom potential. Now, partnership, when we look at the nature of 1 + 1 = a third thing, that partnership is going to be something that is dependent on each being operating correctly as far as whether it's going to be peaceful for the manifestor, successful for the projector, or satisfying for the generator and surprising for a reflector. So when you put 2 and 2 together, you get that third body graph. And we won't be working too much with that in this particular series. The next series, we will look at some more when it comes to partnership, because it's going to be about management. First of you, this is this course, and then we go to how do we manage the others or get the best out of others. So once you've got a partnership, it's very easy for one more person to join the group, and now we see 3 to 5 people in that context within the body graph where we have a focus on very specific channels and identifying your unique skills or set of skills that you're here to have in context with that small group is one of the primary operating keys, so that you can see what you can rely upon, what's dependable, what you bring to the group, and maybe when it's not okay for you to be in the group because you just simply don't belong there. Again, reflectors being those beings that are not designed to be in the group, as well as manifestors, really not built for the group, although they can get used by the group. Projectors utterly losing their power and getting exhausted in a small group. And so really the small group context happens to be generative, ideally. So this is the base group of 3 to 5 people, that foundational building block of both small, that's how it starts, that's how it begins, and into the larger groups, or we call them WA. So small group can be Penta, We can call them a unified group, and it either is going to be functional or dysfunctional. And then when we add 3 together plus an alpha, now we have an OC16. The alpha 1 is the label for the person at the top, the manager that Ra created, the 3 unified groups plus an alpha. So once we have 3 to 5 people and 3 groups of those people plus the alpha, now we have large group dynamics, and these are the organizing channels of a group of 16. So the exact elements that are necessary for the large group when it comes to the management of that large group happen to be these channels. So if you've got one of these channels, you are designed to have a role in a large group. We'll talk more about that next week. So the OC16 being one of those invisible mechanisms that holds groups together under the umbrella of those 3 to 5 person groupings we call Penta. And it's not about them being locked in. It's actually quite morphous, as in people move through in and out of these kinds of transauric entities all the time. And you may not be aware of how deeply homogenized and controlled you are in that grouping. But it is a fact that those groups tend to have more productivity, they have more diversity, the more people that you get. And because this has a powerful glue-like structure, when people are all here together, you're going to find that it may be difficult sometimes to get out of that group. Maybe you like the money, maybe you like the people, maybe you like the opportunity. There are definitely advantages to working in a larger group of people. Now, when I talk about transauric entities, I am literally talking about between auras. So that means then it has to be that the people are physically in person. This does not work at a distance. It is the physical in-person dynamic that we are looking at with these electromagnetic entities. So again, anyone can be an alpha, but everybody's going to have a different way of being their own alpha. The alpha traditionally has always been the manifestor, the one that cracked the whip, so to speak. And the generator, now we have these beings who are designed by nature to work and in group. And ideally, again, if you see any of those channels inside of you, this is where you're going to make the most money. It does not necessarily mean that it's going to be correct for you, though. Money is only a part of the aspect of fulfillment. So remember, the projector is designed by nature to be an alpha, but that definitely doesn't mean that they are entitled to step up and just boss people around. That is not the kind of alpha that's manifestor business. That's not the kind of alpha that projectors are designed to be. So, as an organizing channel of a group of 16, very clearly delineated here, what you'll find is, of course, we don't see any reflector management channels here. However, do recall that the reflector design is here with lunar strengths. And what you'll find, interestingly enough, is that sometimes we have 2 different people, one playing a role, the other playing the other role, and that partnership working quite nicely together. But generally speaking, it is the entirety of the channel that's going to show somebody who's going to rise to the top and be in charge of that group, either through upper or middle management. So the thing to contemplate now is we're going into your specific type and then the kinds of definition we find within each type. So my recommendation is go and listen to whichever one of these that you are according to your type and see what's different about your definition. related to your body graph. When you're no longer concerned about whether you're as successful or keeping up with the Joneses, they say here in America, then you can fully, finally begin to live out what you came here to be, being at ease in the way in which your life manifests and moves.